The last 12 months here in the housing market have been nuts, right?
Right.
People are going in, no option, no inspection. They're buying cash. They're paying 100 over ask, and it's just this free-for-all, complete seller's market. What then happens when maybe the bubble in DFW isn't going to burst? And we'll talk in a minute about how our diversity of industry here is a little different than, say, Austin or Boise or Salt Lake. But if you bought a house way over appraised value because you were buying it with a trust fund, or maybe with all your equity from your home in a way inflated market like, say, Southern California, you come here and the market does take a downturn, you've bought that property at such a high marker. Are you in danger of really paying a penalty in terms of your financial future for a long, long time as you try to get back up past what you bought it for if we do dip a little bit?
100%. And, the answer to that question really depends on the type of buyer, right? Like if you're someone who is from California, you sold your home in Orange County for 1.5 and you bought your home in Dallas for 1 million and you overpaid by 200,000, you might not care. Like you, honestly, home values are going to go down. You overpaid by 200,000 and it's going to take 5 years for you to get that value back. But you're so financially set that it's no big deal. The problem comes in when someone's taking out an FHA loan, which those are typically at 95% leverage, only putting a 5% down payment. Often these are first-time home buyers with lower credit scores. Them buying and overpaying at the top of the market is a problem. Because if home values go down by 10%, they're underwater, right? Because they only put down 5% on their loan. The other issue is the investors as well. Because, the investor buys in cash at the transaction, but that's always funded by leverage in the background and by debt in the background. So if home values go down by 15%, a lot of these investors are going to be underwater. Like Progress Residential, one of the biggest home buyers, corporate home buyers in America, in 2021, they were raising about 90 to 95% leverage from debt to buy their single-family home portfolio, which is insane. Like that a corporate buyer is getting that much leverage. So there is a lot of risk for people who use high leverage and debt to purchase their homes. They're going to be underwater for not just a year. They're going to be underwater for 5 years. People who overpaid in cash, they have the financial flexibility that it's not a huge deal. But more broadly, the way to think about Dallas and other housing markets is it's about the incremental buyer. It's not so much like, is that person who bought in California going to sell? It's, does that buyer from California now exist into the future? That's the question to ask, right?
So you're asking a sustainability question.
Sustainability. You nailed it. It's sustainability.
Is this repeatable?
Is this repeatable? And the answer, in my opinion, is no. Because we talked before in our last podcast about the California migration trends. We're already seeing a slowdown in wealthy home buyers coming in from LA and San Francisco into markets in Texas and Idaho. So that means we're not going to have as many of those cash California buyers going forward, which is going to create problems. That's going to cause prices to go down on their own. And then really, where I think you're right, you alluded to the fact that Dallas has a more diversified economy, right? Like when you look at all the big corporations that are here, you don't even know. Like Rolex, their North American headquarters is in Dallas. I had no idea. I just walked by the building. There's all these companies here.
Isn't Goldman Sachs moving to downtown Dallas soon?
I believe they're doing wealth management potentially in downtown Dallas. They're bringing a lot of jobs. So
like a couple thousand high-end
jobs.
Yeah.
So that's a finance exposure, which is probably going to perform a little bit better in an inflationary environment. Dallas has real estate exposure. They have tech exposure. So Dallas is going to get hit, but it's not going to get hit as hard as a place like San Francisco or Austin, where it's like a crazy amount of exposure to just tech. I would imagine, I lived in Austin for a year. To me, it seemed like at least half of the home buyers in Austin worked in tech. In San Francisco, it's probably like 3/4. So if you have a secular downturn in tech, we're seeing right now Facebook Metaverse or Facebook Meta just said that they're going to be laying off staff for the rest of the year, lowered their revenue guidance. If you have startups going out of business, going bankrupt, announcing layoffs, that's going to mean the main source of housing demand in these cities is gone. It's completely gone. So in that sense, I think Dallas will perform better. But we're going to see a broader housing market downturn in America.
Your projection, the top 10 housing market bubbles to burst, where Austin was number one.
That's right.
What have you seen in the last couple of months to support that? Or have you seen that's kind of surprised you that's like, oh, wow, I think you had North Carolina market in there. Yeah, that Raleigh-Durham area. Don't they call that the Tech Triangle,
That's right.
I believe. My parents lived there in Cary for a while. Right?
Oh, really? Yeah, it's a great suburb, yeah.
Are you seeing, that was a fascinating video you did. Are you seeing that everything's playing out the way you thought it would, or have some other possible components come to play that you didn't expect, something unexpected?
I would say mostly it's playing out almost exactly like I thought it would. The metros with the biggest surge in inventory right now are Austin, Boise, Salt Lake, Phoenix, Las Vegas. Those are the metros with the biggest surges in inventory.
Surge in inventory. You're saying builders building new houses?
I'm saying everything. I'm saying existing homes are piling up, new homes are piling up, price cuts are piling up, prices are starting to go down in those markets. So I think more broadly, it's happening as I expected. Interestingly, we're seeing that the Midwest...
Nostradamus Gurley.
That's right.
Over here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, so far, the predictions have been pretty good. And I think they're going to continue to be good because, the other interesting aspect we're seeing is actually the Midwest and the Northeast is not in a housing crash right now. Like, it's very interesting. Holding steady. Home sales in the Midwest and Northeast are down a bit, but they're holding steady. The price cuts are very low in a metro like Chicago. In a place like New York, very low share of price cuts. So there's something about the steadiness and the affordability of some of those areas in the Midwest and Northeast that's keeping their housing markets from entering a crash, whereas in the Sun Belt and tech-related housing markets, we are in it right now. And we're in the beginning stages, so very important that people remember this, that we're in the beginning stages of this housing crash. It's going to take time. I see some people out there getting frustrated. They see, oh, well, inventory's doubled year over year in Austin, but prices are still above where they were 2 years ago, and that's to be expected. The housing market, as I say, it's kind of a slow motion crash. You start with more inventory, you start with more price cuts, but sellers are emotionally attached to their homes. They're not going to cut as much as you want them to at first, but it takes time. From 2007 to 2009, it took about 2 years for that last housing crash to really get going. It took 24 months for prices to go down about 20% across America, and then it was another 2 years of them incrementally going down more. So it's important that people also have the right perspective. It's not as if you're going to buy an amazing deal in 3 months, but in the next year, you're going to start to see some really good deals. So very important that you watch out for that. You pay attention to what the inventory rates are in the market and the price cut rates, and you just look for what my reservation price is, what's my strike price, and then find a deal that meets it if it's in 6 months or if it's in 18 months.